Hello and thank you for joining me for episode 3 of the Eternal Law. Capturing Mino is like stepping from a carriage into a crowded street. Now all Japan knows the name Oda, and all envy the fine land we command. You might think it unlike me, but even I can see that we must be diplomatic with our new neighbours. And yet we must never forget that to survive we must consume them. We shall take well-earned rest this winter, but once it is over, it will be the age of the country at war. So we're picking up where we left off. It's the autumn of 1545. Now last time we captured Inabayama Castle here. You can see it's being scheduled for repair, and the forces that we used to capture it are currently replenishing their numbers from the local people. As a result of capturing Mino, we've encountered a number of other clans. We now border a lot of other clan lands. So to begin with, we need to enter diplomacy with them. The Tokugawa still refuse to trade with us, very mean. The Kiso to our east also refuse to trade with us. That is going to be a big mistake. How about the Azai to our west? Will they trade with us?
Speak.
They seem satisfied by this deal.
Honesty and clarity march forwards together in negotiation. So we are in agreement then. Honesty and respect have informed our dealings.
So the Azai did agree to a trade deal. This will give you some more intelligence on what's going on over in Omi province.
Please, speak honestly, and I will give you... Your
That light
terms
blue
are
clan to the north of us also agreed to trade. I can't actually read their name. I should say that when I commentate on this, I'm doing it on some very low resolution footage. So I actually can't read the text on the screen, even though if you're watching in high definition, you can. So you'll have to excuse me for apparently not knowing what this text actually says. The Iko-Iki, the rebels, basically agree to our trade deal as well. The Iko-Iki, I think, are going to be a big problem for us in this campaign in the near future, but for now we will deign to trade with them.
I will listen attentively.
Now I considered a military alliance with the Azai. This would mean my western border would be much more secure. I cheekily asked them to be my vassal and they disagreed to that. I considered doing a hostage exchange to cement the alliance, but they didn't have anyone to exchange with. So, I'm going for a straight military alliance.
I accept! Your terms are even-handed and fair. Your words respectful and becoming to your honor.
And they are delighted to ally with us. So I have followed the historical pattern, and Oda has allied with the Azai. This means I can focus my attention over here on the Kiso clan in South Shinano. I want to capture their castle because it's in a bottleneck. It will allow me to fend off the Takeda, hopefully indefinitely, should the Takeda decide to make a campaign towards the capital. Now it's time to move on. It seems the Iko-Iki are moving troops into the Azai lands. That's highly suspicious. And then I get this message saying that the Azai are under attack from the Sakai clan. They're a clan on the north shore of the lake, Lake Umi. I'm not sure where they're attacking. I don't see any of their forces. However, I agree to join Azai in a war against the Sakura clan. The Sakai clan, sorry.
Possess the ability to defend themselves in melee combat, and are more effective against enemy cavalry.
So I've recruited my first extra regiment of Yari samurai, so I get a little video. Here's the Iko-Iki army. The skull flashing on its flag means that its men are dying because of the harsh winter conditions they're trying to march through. So that's their loss, really. But it seems they are marching towards the Azai capital. Now, they only just became my ally. However, I wanted to earn a little bit of honor and respect from my clan by at least attempting to honor our alliance. Thus, I sent General Munayuri out with a small detachment of troops into this forest beside the Azai territory, both in order to scout out what was going on over there exactly, and to be in a position to potentially provide military intervention should the situation arise. In the forest we were approached by Azai scouts. They confirmed that the Iko were spreading their rebellion to Umi. Not only that, but that the Hattori, the clan recently established in the Republic of Iga, are leading a force their way too. I thanked the scouts as they continued on, and felt pity for the people living so near the capital. This will not be the first invasion they shall endure. So the winter passed, and indeed it looked like the Azai were in trouble. They were being invaded by two armies, one from the Hattori clan to the south, and the other from the Iko in the northeast. Looks like my ally that I just made is actually going to prove not very helpful at all. Perhaps my western defences are less secure than I had thought. We master the way of Chi, which means we are now able to build marketplaces. I have to choose a new art to start mastering. I'm going to go towards Way of the Bow, which also requires learning strategy of attack. And if I just select Way of the Bow, the samurai will automatically learn all of the prerequisites and then learn Way of the Bow itself. I have a few options for construction here at Inabayama Castle because not much has been built up. First I decided to upgrade their farms, which is always an important thing to do, so you can start expanding your economy and your ability to recruit new troops at your stronghold. Meanwhile, since it seems that some sort of war is going to happen very soon, I knew I needed to invest some of my money into new troops. And taking a look at these enemy armies, it looks like they will be able to beat the Azai force. The Azai have only a small standing army at their capital, a fairly large garrison, but between the standing army and the garrison I don't think they'll be able to beat off these two invading armies. I had my little detachment under General Munayuri. I decided to move them forward into these forests just south of the Azai capital, basically so they could have a better striking distance should they need to intervene in the conflict. Sure enough, when the turn ends, the Hattori were the first to invade and were immediately successful, so the Azai clan fall during this turn. This means the forces I stationed in that province will teleport back to my own province. Here we go, it's a tactical withdrawal, so Takeyama's army is forced to move back to Mino province as a result of the changing hands of territory and them no longer being welcome in that area. So now the question is, will the Hattori clan be friendly towards me? Do I need to worry about them just yet? Should I invade immediately, counter-invade, take revenge for the Azai? Or do I have time to achieve my long-term goal of setting up a choke point where the Kiso clan is stationed in order to make sure the Takeda don't pull anything while I'm too focused on getting towards the capital? The Hattori here just agreed to a trade deal, which means they're probably not feeling too warlike, or at least that's what I like to hope. The diplomatic analysis seemed to think they were friendly, so I'm going to trust the Hattori for now to sit on my western border and not invade. Perhaps they will be occupied by the Iko, still attempting to overturn Uumi to their way of life. This should give me a little time. You can see here I've decided to upgrade the road networks at Mino in preparation for my invasion, because the invasion, the place I'm invading is quite far away to the east, so my forces are going to need some good roads to walk on to make sure they get there speedily. Then all that's left is to actually put together a force. It's going to take me a turn or two to put together an army that could probably capture the stronghold of the Kiso clan. The Kiso clan are a very defensive and a fairly peaceful clan, so I was expecting them to have some level of fortification in their territory, that they would basically have made their military priority just to defend their own territory and not to attack. So I thought they'd probably hold up in their base with a large defensive force. Here we are a little bit later in the winter turn, and my army is now ready. You can see I've got this huge force. I'm leaving a few things behind as a garrison, just in case something goes wrong and I need a few troops around the area. Moving up some reinforcements I've recruited at Owari into Takeyama's force. Takeyama is going to lead this attack. I'm going to leave General Nobuhide, our daimyo, behind in Owari, just in case he needs to take command of any rapid relief forces to go east to save Takeyama, or indeed to repel any sudden invasions to Owari or Mino. You can see here I am recruiting Enmetsuke.
He who can see the shadows has power in the light. Metsuke deal in bribery and corruption. Keep order and watch for assassins and spies.
Well, the lovely video pretty much described what they do. Now the next order of business was to contact the Kiso clan. First I wanted to see whether they were willing to set up a trade agreement, because if they were, this might change my mind about invading them. It seemed they weren't, not at all, so it comes to war. I'm going to make a formal declaration of war with the Kiso clan. And there we go.
I hope you live long enough to recognize your foolishness, but not long after that.
Pretty cheeky. It is much more honourable for your clan to declare war in advance, sort of preferably at least one season before you actually take any military action against the clan, to give them sort of fair play time to prepare for your invasion. That's why I declared war, even before I was actually ready to invade properly.
These troops are best kept at range, and will suffer heavy losses if engaged in melee.
So I recruited 3 battalions of Bow Ashigaru, now that I've mastered Way of the Bow and are able to do so. The Hojo and the Takeda broke off an alliance to the east, so we'll see what the result of that is. And a great clan have been destroyed, it's the Mori. Let's see the little cutscene associated with it. So the last daimyo of the Mori has committed seppuku, his clan and family have been destroyed somewhere far to the west. Perhaps doesn't concern me now, but this political event may end up having ramifications for the Oda clan later on. And moving up those bowmen I recruited to support Takayama's army, they're not going to be able to move directly with them because they've just exhausted all of their movement ability just getting near Takayama's force, and I don't want to delay Takayama's movement for another turn. My Mexike I assign to oversee Owari. This will basically mean I get higher tax revenue from Owari, and I'll be alerted if there's any enemy spying going on in the province, which could indicate to me which enemy clans are considering invading, so this is a very useful thing. At the same time as my army leaves my territory, I need to have a force still in the territory in case something goes wrong, so I'm still recruiting more troops. And now it's time to actually move the force up. What I really wanted to do was just get close enough to the Kiso stronghold so I could see what sort of forces they had, and then I'd make a decision about whether to actually assault it. You can see here they have a quarry. Having a quarry in your territory makes it very easy to build castles, which means it's likely they'll have some fairly hefty fortifications in their stronghold here. They have a fairly large force. The garrison is big enough that the size of their force will match mine, so I decided not to attack for this season. You can see I found this military cache, which means for the next year I get cheaper units, which is very good. During the end turn sequence I actually changed my mind and decided to attack anyway, even though the forces are about even. I thought that using strategy I can probably win against a force of even strength than mine. However, when I saw the force, it has a lot of samurai in it, and I was kind of worried that they would just rip through my forces if I tried to engage. Thus I decided to lay siege for one turn to allow my bow forces to move up. This means in the next turn I might stand a better chance in any battles against the Kiso which were to occur. At the same time here, I'm exploiting the fact that we just got cheaper units by recruiting a whole load of samurai. Although at first I wanted to recruit some Ashigaru, but then I realised it'd be most efficient to recruit my most expensive units during this discount period. So I'm getting some new samurai in the west. Sure enough, it turns out the Kiso wanted to fight. They've sallied out of the castle and are going to engage me in a field battle not far from their stronghold. So this gives me a slight advantage of not having to attack the walls, a massive advantage even, but we'll see whether my lack of samurai proves to be a real problem on the battlefield. Now the battlefield itself proved to be very interesting. You can see here there's a huge hill in the centre that my forces immediately started moving up as the battle began. The enemy began deployed a little further away from this hill, which means I'm going to have the time advantage in actually occupying this hill and having the stronger position. I divided my force into 3 groups. The first group moved up to occupy the south side of the hill, and you can see they've already pretty much arrived at the crest and have a high ground. The second group is this one here. It's the first 3 units in this line. They're going to be moving up to occupy the north part of the hill. The rest of this main battle line is the third and final group, who are going to occupy just the space north of the hill, folding around to meet the enemy as they try and advance up the hill was the plan. The enemy also detached a very small unit of samurai to the south in order to engage one of the approaches which I had not guarded. So I had to adjust my formation for that. You can see the forces here now occupying the north part of the hill position. Here the southern part of the hill position is almost secure. I have all the approaches accounted for. The enemy are sprinting up the hill, but meanwhile my main battle line is being engaged by the enemy vanguard. I charge forward and the battle begins. The enemy vanguard was not coming in a particular formation, they were just coming in a sort of diagonal wave pattern. So I exploited this by running forward and trying to surround their units where I could. However, they did have some fairly powerful units in their line, so those guys who are fighting on even terrain are going to have a hard time. Up here on the hill, we have a slight advantage because our guys are fighting downhill and also can charge downhill with reinforcements. Over here on the south side that I mentioned, that approach, I guarded it with these long Yari Ashigaru pikemen and told them to form a spear wall just to see if it would hold the enemy off. It looks like it does. The enemy run up thinking they can get through the spear wall. Then everyone starts jabbing forwards and pushing them back. So these enemy Yari samurai are now unable to penetrate this wall of Ashigaru, meaning that my south flank is safe. Meanwhile, the enemy are really throwing most of their forces into assaulting this part of the hill, which is exactly what I wanted. This is where I concentrated all of my reserve units, so I can keep piling reserves in to come down the hill and attack enemy units as they come up. Back here on the north side, the formations are getting a bit strange. You can see where I've tried to surround enemy units. It's more or less successful. I've got most of them being attacked on at least one of their flanks. These guys right on the end are very detached from the rest of their army and flee because they lose morale. That means I can pull more units into the middle, which will help out. Now here's the danger area. You can see the enemy are actually breaking through my center with these swordsmen here. Well, where my swordsmen, are being killed are the enemy long Yari Ashigaru who have drawn their swords and are now fighting at close range. So this was a big problem. I needed to do something to plug that gap. Now let's move back over to the south side of the hill and see how those pikemen were getting on. They're still trying to hold off the enemy's Yari samurai, and they're actually doing fairly well. You can see here they've actually killed most of the enemy samurai who were just so determined to get through. They just kept attacking again and again, and most of them died. Now the enemy general is moving up. They've almost breached an access point on the north side of the hill. They can start looping around and attacking my position on top of the hill if they really wanted. You can see there's only a couple of guys left in my center, so they're about to break through here. It won't gain them any particular advantage by breaking through, so it's not such a tactical disaster. But it doesn't look good for this unit of Lone Sword Ashigaru. However, right out on the left flank, all the forces that defeated the various enemy units which were retreating on the far left are now coming in and starting to have their influence on the center left of the flanks. Back at the approach to the hill face, the enemy general has decided to charge his way up to support his troops. You can see there's a lot of yellow troops here facing off with a lot of green. Basically it's a deadlock. However, I think I have the superior position. It looks like I have a little bit of a numerical advantage and of course have a positional advantage. The enemy general's bodyguards now get caught up in this whole mess. A couple of them die. I think they will quickly run away when they realise it's a bad idea to be sitting around in there. Back out on the flank, I'm now surrounding some more enemy units. I have only a couple of men left defending the south side, the north side, of the hill approach. So I'm moving over those pikemen from the south side who did so well at fending off the samurai in order to protect this north side, hoping that if I can protect it for long enough, this the center here will break because I have so many units pushing into the enemy formation. The only downside is that behind these units there's a whole bunch of archers who are firing into my big blob formation and killing lots of my troops. But I'll take revenge on them later. So here are the pikemen. I ordered them to get very near to where they were fighting my guys. One volley of arrows just went past there. And then form a pike wall formation. So now we've formed a little blockade. However, rather than wait for the enemy to come to me, I'd rather make my blockade move forward and engage the enemy. So I ordered them to walk forwards in pike wall formation and try and really pressure these enemy units to push them back down off the hill completely. And you can see it begins to work straight away. Out here on the south flank, my general has quit the hill and is now charging round to the enemy's rear to engage with those pesky bowmen. So revenge was indeed had. They charge in and start slashing at this battalion of bowmen, and I think they're going to be fighting those bowmen for the rest of the battle. The enemy is now beginning to get outnumbered. The balance is shifting. Here, some of the enemies fighting my pikemen decide to give up and leave the battlefield, so you can see that this is definitely having an effect by attacking them from two sides like this. A lot of these units they're fighting are actually bow ashigaru, who will die fairly easily, so I was confident about that. Over here there's a unit of enemy samurai who've been almost completely surrounded. However, the tiny gap left in the formation is just large enough to allow the enemy general to come and sneak in. I'm not sure what he thinks he can do by breaking into this encirclement, but he seems to think it's a good idea. Perhaps he wanted to rescue his brave samurai. So he comes in and his bodyguards begin engaging my forces. However, you can see the enemy samurai are actually breaking and falling back. This is the general here that we're looking at. Let's see how he does. Oh, he just absolutely annihilated one of my troops. I was really hoping someone would just attack him and try and take him off his horse. He decided in fact to try and leave. Oh, but it looks like someone finally managed to kill the horse, and the general dies as well. So, with this, the enemy army in the centre just completely routed, and victory was mine. A very large amount of them were killed in their retreat because they retreated through one of my own units who had managed to penetrate their formation and was kind of fighting them from behind. So, overall, the fairly even armies ended up fighting a fairly one-sided battle thanks to my position up on the hill. This means we'll have plenty of forces left to garrison the castle and employ my bottleneck strategy against whoever comes from the east. When word of the Kiso defeat reached Owari, young Master Nobunaga jumped at his father and told him that now the way was clear for him to march on the capital. Nobuhide brushed him aside, calling him a fool, but I saw it, the momentary loss of serenity across Nobuhide's brow. He had indeed thought about taking the capital, and doubtless desires little else, if I know our lord well. They call his boy the Fool of Owari, but he certainly knows what one must do to rule the land. So here's the battle abroad. It looks like I lost 2 units of Lone Sword Ashigaru, and the rest of the army took fair casualties. Probably about half on average of the army was destroyed, whereas the entire enemy army destroyed. So we only we lost half as many as the enemy. So overall, it was a very advantageous battle.
Swordsmen with excellent morale. These warriors are the body and soul of any army.
So finally I've recruited some of the body and soul of an army, which sounds like it's going to be useful. That's back in Mino province. Now the Kiso castle has only a very small garrison left over from that field battle, just the survivors that managed to escape. So I decided to let the computer auto-resolve Takeyama's assault, assuming that it would be too easy for me to actually concern myself with. And indeed the computer decided that I would take it for no losses whatsoever. So perfect, all of my forces survived the assault. Perhaps a little unrealistic, but anyway, we've captured the castle. I can peacefully occupy it, and now you can see there's a big channel to the north through the mountains. If the enemy want to attack Mino from the east, they'll have to come through this channel, and now my castle, sitting in the middle here, is in the perfect position to do my stopgap plan. Back in Mino, you can see I'm recruiting new forces. I've recruited a new Meske as well. I also acquired superior stone when I captured the Kiso province. I can use this stone to build castles for much less money. I also gained diplomatic encounters with the Takeda. I can now speak to the Takeda. For now I'd rather be friends with them. It says they're unfriendly towards me at first, perhaps because they are allies of the Imagawa, which I am technically at war with, despite having never actually sent forces against them.
So be quick about your business here.
They would not agree to a trade deal, unfortunately. So that's bad news from the beginning. Perhaps when the Imagawa are destroyed by the Tokugawa, which I hope will happen, they will change their mind. Moving on to winter, I mastered the way of the bow, and we have a new general who was asking to be enlisted in the Oda army. I decided to do so, and agreed to have a new general in our forces. Always a good idea. Now that I've mastered way of the bow, it's time for me to pick a new art. I was going to pick a couple of civil ones, but then I thought it's probably best to get the military one that I need learnt first before we go about improving the civil side of the clan administration. So we're going to learn strategy of defense and heaven and earth. Back over here in South Shinano, I'm currently upgrading the quarry which is there to a stoneworks in order to further cheapen the building of castles there, so I can have some long-term defences there, which is part of my plan. Here is the new general we hired. He's very inexperienced and not particularly loyal either, so we'll have to see how he fares in the field of battle once he has an opportunity to test himself, which hopefully will arise soon enough. Now I'm taking that Metsuke I recruited last turn, and I'm going to go and investigate the Iko-Iki lands up here, because I was thinking the Iko-Iki might be the target of my next campaign. When I got up here, I got near the Sakai lands. I remembered that technically I'm still at war with the Sakai after that whole deal with the Azai alliance conundrum. And their capital actually looks relatively unguarded. I was very happy to see this. I brought up the Sakai on the diplomatic panel to see what their political affiliations were, and it looked to me like I could capture their territory without very much hate from any other clans. So I thought actually this is a good idea to test this new general, as I wish to do. So I take the new general and some of the forces I've been recruiting during the campaign against the Kiso and put together an army that marches somewhat west, ready to move towards the Sakai lands. I managed to get a sizable force together. It wasn't quite big enough, so I decided I would wait to recruit more units before actually embarking on this campaign. So here we are in spring. The Hojo clan were destroyed during the transition from winter to spring. When I came to look over here, it seems the Takeda clan have occupied the Hojo lands, these three provinces, Kai, Sagami and Izu. So the Takeda clan are now approximately equal in strength to the Oda clan, which for me was a worrying thing. I'm sure the Takeda clan are going to come towards me soon, so hopefully my whole plan of defending the Kiso territory of South Shinano will work out. But for now, I decided to just focus on this campaign against the Sakai. I'm hoping if I can capture their territory, it'll give me a strong basis for engaging with the Iko-Iki and making sure they don't spread their rebellious ways down to central Japan, where I want things as stable as possible so I can slowly capture myself a good economic base to capture the rest of the nation. Finally, the army is put together and plenty of forces. However, before they can move out, I need military access to the Hattori lands because I need to use their road network to get near to the Sakai province.
Welcome. I'm here
I offered them
listen
10 turns of access in
and to
return for
seek a
just
worthy
5, so
outcome to our
a
discussions.
deal which is slanted against myself, but they agreed to it.
This is
I assume they would not agree to an
When
equal
honest
trade,
men
because
deal
why would they?
honestly with each other, we can reach agreement.
I'm the one who wants to use the road network, they don't want to use mine. So I had to offer them a little bit more to make it a sweet deal for them. I also noticed I now had the availability of some
I
sea
am
trade
here
with one
to
of the other
listen.
clans quite far
When you
away,
have
however they immediately denied my request. So I'll have to wait for another clan who wishes to trade with me by sea. This is the result of me upgrading my ports. So, the Sakai now in my sights. We'll see what happens to them on the next Oda episode of the Eternal Law. Thank you for watching. Join me for more of the Takeda's campaign next time on the Eternal Law.